You are watching KAVU 25 News Now at 10.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Adam Seibel. Early voting in Victoria for the November 7th election ended yesterday. The numbers from the Victoria County Election Administrator look like this. 578 people voted in person early Friday. 2,809 people have voted early in Victoria County. 10 mail-in votes were received Friday and a total of 443 mail-in votes. 3,252 votes were cast early in Victoria County for this election. That's 5.8% of registered voters in the county. In this Texas constitutional amendment election, Proposition 14 would create the Centennial Parks Conservation Fund. Currently, Texas Parks and Wildlife leases land from private corporations to create Texas state parks. The Centennial Parks Conservation Fund would be a trust fund outside the state treasury. The fund would consist of money from the legislature, grants to parks and wildlife, and investment earnings. Election day is Tuesday, November 7th. Another El Campo church has been targeted by burglars, with the thieves taking an air conditioner rather than the religious items in this case. The El Campo Leader News reports Allen Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church at 219 Palacia Street was broken into sometime between the afternoon of Sunday, October 22nd and the morning of Sunday, October 28th. Police chased a tractor trailer through multiple counties today in the Houston area. Authorities say the chase started north of Houston on Highway 59 when police responded to a call of a truck driver driving erratically. A highway camera shows the truck rocking back and forth in one lane as more than a dozen police cars gave chase. Police say it all ended west of Houston after there was a crash related to the pursuit. The driver was taken into custody and police could be seen going through the back of the truck. No word on what they found. All right, it's time to talk weather on this Saturday night. Howie, it's a big night, and I said I'd let you talk about it because I think it's more of a meteorologist side, but we're going to be changing our clocks tonight, right?
Well, the weather affects everybody, Adam, and so does the time change. So that's right. Fall back. We get that extra hour this weekend. We lose it in the spring. We're always so upset, but hey, we gain an extra hour. The weekend is an extra hour long. So after 2 in the morning, it'll no longer be 2 o'clock. It'll be 1 o'clock in the morning. So set those clocks back if it's not digital or doesn't go automatic like your phone. Now, if you're out there overnight into the morning, yes, you could be looking at some fog problems. So you want to drive on the slower side. Temperature-wise, we're going to be on the warm side until another front comes down later in the week. Tonight, 67 degrees again. Watch out for that fog. We'll touch more on the fog and our cold front later in the week. Coming up in my full forecast in just a bit, Adam.
All righty. Thanks, Howie. The Israel-Hamas war now in its 29th day. The conflict began when Hamas attacked Israel. Israeli authorities say more than 1,400 people died in Israel, most of them in October 7th Hamas attack. Israel retaliating with airstrikes and a ground invasion into Gaza. According to the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, the Palestinian death toll has surpassed 9,400.
Israel's bombardment of Gaza continued on Saturday, the military striking a UN shelter in northern Gaza, according to the UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency, adding the death toll is not immediately clear. That attack part of a series of airstrikes as Israel escalated its ground invasion and encircled Gaza City. ABC's Ian Pannell embedded with Israeli troops at an undisclosed location inside the Gaza Strip.
You can hear the sound of gunfire, of tank fire. You can see the Israeli troops here. You can hear the sound of explosions and thick black smoke rising in the distance. This is one building I can show you. Obviously, something that was a civilian building. What the Israelis say is that Hamas have used these kind of buildings, using the civilians as essentially shields to launch their attacks.
Meanwhile, Hamas continues its strikes against Israel, launching rockets into Ashkelon in southern Israel Saturday night. IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari says Israel's ground forces reported that they are in control of every battle and have the upper hand. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Jordan Saturday, meeting with 6 regional Arab leaders, reaffirming U.S. support for a humanitarian pause in fighting as opposed to a ceasefire in order to get hostages out and aid into Gaza.
It's our view that a ceasefire now would simply leave Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat what it did on October 7th. None of us can accept that. No one would find that tolerable.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Friday Israel is going full steam ahead unless the estimated 240 hostages believed to be held by Hamas are released. While in Delaware Saturday, President Joe Biden expressing optimism about a pause in fighting to get hostages out and aid into Gaza.
Mr. President, any progress on a humanitarian pause? Yes.
Chuck Sievertson, ABC News, New York.
Tens of thousands of pro-Palestine demonstrators marched in cities today across Europe calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. In London, 30,000 demonstrators marched through downtown holding signs that read "Free Palestine" and "No Justice, No Peace." They packed into the square for a rally organized by Free Palestine Coalition. Demonstrators have held rallies in London every weekend since the war began last month. In Paris, 19,000 demonstrators, many carrying Palestinian flags, marched to show their solidarity with the Palestine. Today, demonstrations was one of the first big rallies that's been legally allowed in Paris since Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. French authorities have banned previous pro-Palestine gatherings due to concerns about public disorder. In Germany, more than 6,000 people attended a rally also calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. German police have banned such rallies in previous weeks. The protest comes days after Germany banned the activities of Hamas, which has been designated as a terrorist organization in the country. The State Department's recommending that U.S. citizens in Lebanon leave now. It's due to what's described as an unpredictable security situation. This video from October 18th in Beirut shows Lebanese protesters clashing with Lebanese security forces near the U.S. Embassy after Hezbollah leaders had called for a day of anger. Today, the State Department warns U.S. citizens they should get out now while commercial flights are still available and advises all to have a plan of action that does not rely on the U.S. government for assistance. Grab your cell phone, scan this QR code. That's a quick response code to download the Crossroads Today app, which you can watch us anytime, anywhere, and get breaking news alerts and vote in our viewer polls. Learn all about our ongoing contest right there on the app, and you can submit news, tips, and photos. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Coming up, the final days of the Texas special session is being met with Republicans infighting.
The sun will be coming out sooner and going down quicker as we fall back over the weekend. We'll talk all about it coming up in just a bit.
Sessions being met with Republicans infighting. Now the question is if the focus for school choice and the border security legislation will be tied up in the uphill battle.
Has this level of dysfunction between a Republican-controlled Texas government ever been so pronounced as you see it?
No, I mean, I think we've reached a new height.
Republicans control the Texas House, the Texas Senate, and the office of the Texas governor. But you might not know it by the amount of legislation lawmakers can agree on. In a 30-day special session expected to focus on school choice and border security, so far, the legislature has advanced just 2 bills, a ban on COVID-19 vaccine mandates for private employers and an increase in criminal penalties for human smuggling. School choice was always going to face an uphill battle, and despite Governor Greg Abbott's last-ditch push earlier this week after an agreement on legislation,
we are on track to ensure there will not be another special session.
Just hours later, the House adjourned until next week, essentially leaving no time to take up school choice legislation. Today, House Education Committee Chair Brad Buckley publicly released a nearly 180-page education omnibus bill, not to be considered this special session, but specifically to give each lawmaker a jump start on examining this bill ahead of the next special session.
So an optimist might say negotiations move forward, but we simply ran out of time. A pessimist would say, if anything, the animosity among the negotiators has grown more acute, not less.
In some of his strongest words against House Speaker Dade Phelan, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who presides over the Senate, wrote that the Speaker has become nothing more than hot air, criticizing not just school choice, but the House's bill that criminalizes illegal border crossings. Speaker Phelan fired back, calling Patrick's comments a desperate bid to salvage what's left of his credibility on border security, and says the Senate had watered down that legislation. With that, the Senate comes back to work on Sunday, and the House comes back after that next week. But odds are good, even if one chamber passes any legislation, the other may not be inclined to do the same.
So here's your viewer poll this evening. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. Do you support school choice here in Texas? 70% say yes and 30% say no. Thank you for voting. Last weekend, Texas was hit with torrential downpour with over 10 inches of rain falling in just a few hours, causing widespread flooding across the region.
Last weekend, more than 10 inches of rain fell in a matter of hours.
It was up to the bottom of that window right there, you see.
George Hinkle's home still flooded, his family relying on the community to get by.
We don't know how long emotionally we can handle having to wait for this water to go down.
While he does have insurance, he says there's a problem.
The insurance can't come in here and adjust until the waters are down.
He explains the home or barn dominium backs up to Kings Creek Reservoir.
The relief that I'm looking for, I don't understand why I can't get it. Why I can't get the flood waters. One pump, one diesel operated pump on the other side of that reservoir. I've contacted the people that manage the reservoir, and they say that they can't put anything the reservoir's doing exactly like it should, that I should have never been able to purchase this property.
Kaufman County Emergency Management Coordinator Steve Howie says the home was built in a flood easement without their knowledge. He says the county is doing what they can to help, but the issue is the Texas Soil and Water Conservation District's responsibility. He points out putting up a pump would not only be very expensive, but setup alone could take 2 to 3 days.
Every day that I march out there is harder and harder on me.
Hinkle still remaining hopeful something can be done. In Kaufman, Aaron Jones, CBS News, Texas.
A powerful earthquake rocked northwestern Nepal, killing at least 128 people and injuring more. Authorities say the death toll is expected to rise. The quake hit at night when many people were asleep. Numerous buildings collapsed, reducing some to piles of rubble. Police say security forces have been conducting rescue operations to dig out the injured. The U.S. Geological Survey says the quake had a preliminary magnitude of 5.6. It was felt more than 500 miles away in New Delhi, India. A toddler accidentally shot himself at a preschool in Las Vegas after he found a gun on the property. Police say that gun was dropped by a teenage suspect in another shooting and was dropped as the suspect hopped over a wall at the daycare as he fled the initial shooting scene. The child, who is under the age of 5, found the gun, picked it up, and fired the weapon. He sustained a substantial bodily injury and was rushed to the hospital, where he's said to be in stable yet critical condition. The teenage suspect who dropped the gun after allegedly shooting another man was taken into custody. Police are now looking at charging him as an adult. For more on today's news stories, come to crossroadstoday.com. Don't forget to submit your birthday wishes. Carolina Estrain will read them live on 25 News Now Sunrise, and you can also submit a local military hero.
In March, we'll spring forward, but today we're going to fall back. We'll talk all about it coming up in just a moment. All right, so we gain an hour this weekend. More time to hang out for dinner, have fun, more time to go to the beach if you're doing that tomorrow. Beach day, not too bad. We'll talk about that, but that's right. By 2 o'clock in the morning, it'll be 1 o'clock in the morning. So what does that mean? So sun's going to go down quicker, but we're going to have more daylight in the morning. So when you wake up now, we might see the sun already compared to later on. Sun's going to start to go down. But either way, we fall back at 2 o'clock in the morning. It'll be 1 o'clock. So set those clocks back an hour tomorrow or overnight tonight if you do. Some of them go automatically like your phone, but either way, we're going to fall back. So the end of daylight saving times as we gain an hour as we fall back overnight tonight. All right, we'll be dry and warm for much of the week. Fog for maybe the next couple days until the winds pick up. That'll take care of the fog. But then a front later on in the week. What happened today? We were 83 degrees, about 5 degrees above average. We've been as hot as 93 back in 1988. All right, temperature-wise, we're above average. We're going to stay above average for much of the week. Even nights only dropping down into the 60s. That'll change later in the week with an expected front, maybe in that Thursday, Friday time frame. All right. I talked about fog earlier, so high pressures here, kind of trapping that low-level moisture. What does that mean? Visibility's getting taken down. Areas of patchy fog could be even on the dense side in some locations, so you want to take it on the slow side. If you come across this fog, can be very problematic, especially when you're on the roadways. All right, here's our dew points. We got knocked down with our latest front several days ago, but moisture slowly moving back into the area. Some of these areas on the dry side, some of this might be even graphic malfunction, but for the most part, we're in the 50s and the 60s. Not as stuffy as we've been, but still a little bit on the humid, warm side, especially overnight. All right, high pressures in place pretty much along the coast, allowing for the most part, partly cloudy, partly sunny skies, seeing some nice sunshine, but even with the moisture moving in and a little cloud development, high pressure pretty much right over the top of us, not allowing for anything in the way of rain. Now the high will start to scooch off towards the east, and when that happens, we'll see some moisture and cloud development actually from the west, and we'll see some moisture pushing in from the Gulf. Then we have better chances at rain, but what we're keeping an eye on, what we're tracking really is way up here. We have a cold front pushing down. Again, scheduled maybe for that Friday time frame, but there's another scenario where that cold front might stop just short of us. Now, if it stops short of us, we'll probably have weather as is, as what we've been seeing. If it decides to push through the area, then temperatures can drop, and that could trigger some rain showers for portions of the crossroads. Here's our future tracker. Probably shouldn't even have it up because really through the middle of the week, not looking at anything in the way of rain. So staying on the dry side is that high pressure slowly does move off, but controls our atmosphere. Here's a marine forecast. Water 69, seas 2 to 3. That'll keep us on the smooth side. Just a feature out there in Central America causing mudslides and flooding. Other than that, nothing moving into the Gulf. Looking pretty good across the Atlantic Ocean. All right, what are we looking at now? So overnight, 67. Partly cloudy with fog or after 10 a.m. or after 4 a.m. and before 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Areas of patchy fog, so be careful as you warm up to 83 tomorrow. Again, fall back by 2 o'clock in the morning. It'll still be 1 a.m. in the morning. Warm days for much of the week. Then potentially that front wants to push through. That'll knock us down temperature-wise, maybe even bring us some showers. For more weather news and sports, we go to our app. That's at crossroadstoday.com. And Zach's yelling at me because I went a little long for weather, but now we got sports with Zach.
Yeah, we got to recap some Crossroads Football Live madness. I got that coming up in sports. But one of the best times of the year, playoff races and the battle for the boot, the Victoria West Warriors and Victoria East Titans. This touchdown run right here from Kamari Montgomery had the West Warriors leading at the half, 21-14, trying to win for the fourth consecutive time. The East Titans came out swinging in the second half. They quickly tied the game, played great defense, and by the end of the game, the East Titans letting out 3 years of frustration. MVP honors go to Nigerel Prater, who celebrated with the guys. And not only was it a huge win in the rivalry, but get this, with the win, they are second in district and will host a playoff game this Friday at Memorial Stadium. They get Medina Valley kickoff for that one at 7 p.m. And while the Warriors certainly upset about last night, they got to turn the page quickly. They hit the road to San Antonio and will take on the Southside Cardinals. Last year, they played Southwest, where they were victorious. Can they continue their winning ways in that area? And a wacky one out in Hallettsville, the Yoakum Bulldogs and Brahmas battling for third and fourth. Yoakum taking it to Hallettsville the entire game, except the fourth quarter. The Brahmas scored 29 points in the fourth quarter. Yoakum loses a heartbreaker, but silver lining, both teams going to the playoffs. Hallettsville takes on the tough Franklin Lions, and Yoakum gets a very tough Lorena team who handed Franklin its first loss in a few years. And the Refugio Bobcats went into Ganado and left with a district championship. Ganado did feel good about their chances with young head coach Josh Irvin and first-year starter Bryce Ullman, but Refugio got the 30-7 win. Both teams absolutely fantastic, hoping they can keep up the good work in the postseason. Now from the high school ranks to the college level, the Texas Longhorns this afternoon taking on Kansas State. Hallettsville's Jonathan Brooks with a rushing touchdown going to extend the Longhorn lead to make it 24-7, but Kansas State forces overtime, going for the win on 4th and goal, but the pressure is going to get to them. The Longhorns just barely do hang on for the 33-30 victory. All right, and more good news for Longhorn fans in what was the final bedlam in a while. The Oklahoma State Cowboys did knock off the Oklahoma Sooners. That loss certainly dashing any playoff chances the Sooners did hope to have if they were still alive after that Kansas loss. And let's move on to some soccer. The UHV Jaguar season did come to a close this afternoon over at the Cage. The men's soccer team welcomed Jarvis Christian for a Red River Athletic Conference showdown. This was the quarterfinals, and the boys had a decent amount of opportunities for a goal, just quite couldn't reach the back of the net. Jarvis Christian able to score twice. Great season for the Jags, who posted a 10-win season for the 9th time. And another season that came to a close, the St. Joseph Lady Flyers volleyball team. They made a great playoff run, lost in 4 very close sets. That's it for your sports. Adam, back to you.
All righty, thanks, Zach. Stay with us. Coming up, Halloween may have passed, but a pair of elephants at this Tennessee zoo were able to have fun smashing some leftover pumpkins Here is our new digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can stream our daily newscasts and much more using your connected TV. Just download Crossroads Today Plus on your Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or Android TV. Just search Crossroads Today Plus. All right, so Halloween may have passed, but a pair of elephants at a Tennessee zoo were able to have fun smashing leftover jack-o'-lanterns. A pair of elephants at a zoo, Knoxville, had a chance to smash pumpkins in front of an audience today. Dozens of spectators could be seen standing by, snapping photos of the event. According to a release from the zoo, Eddie and Tonka were the chosen elephants tasked with crushing the pumpkins, which weigh between 700 and 2,000 pounds. Officials with the zoo say the massive pumpkins. Oh, I didn't know if it's talking about the elephants or the pumpkins.
Oh, no, you know what, the pumpkins?
Yeah, so 700-pound pumpkins.
Oh, okay.
So they were huge. So they were donated by Dollywood. Dollywood's a theme park that's owned by a family entertainment center and country singer Dolly Parton. So 700
to 2,000 pound pumpkins. Wow.
That's kind of the crazy
And
part
the elephants
there.
are just doing it for the fun, kind of like how we, smash those little plastic things.
Oh, yeah.
They're just having fun out there.
Yeah, and I'm sure they eat it. Maybe they can eat the pumpkins, I'm guessing.
Have you ever eaten pumpkin?
No,
Not
no,
raw
I
like
haven't.
that.
I've
I
had
don't
pumpkin
know.
seeds.
Really? Like the sunflower seed thingies?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good. Not healthy.
They're pretty good. Oh, so we are falling back tonight. So what does that mean? That's right. So by 2 o'clock in the morning, it'll be 1 in the morning. That's right. We're gaining an hour. Sorry, falling back, gaining an hour. So that's good news. The weekend is an extra hour long. So 67 overnight. We'll look at that fog overnight and in the morning. So be careful. 83 tomorrow. Again, that early fog. And then looking ahead, we fall back tonight. Then later in the week, potentially a cold front knocks us down temperature-wise.
All righty. Thanks, Howie. Thanks, Zach. And thank you for being with us. Remember, like Howie said, remember to change those clocks tonight.